Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Fo. I'll be talking from the point of sorry, give me 1 minute, patient perspective, recent benefits of enrolling in the clinical trial. So clinical trials are an important part of developing new medical interventions that may improve the health and well-being, depending on where it is carried out in the world. So the purpose of clinical trials is to allow researchers to try out new treatments, tests, or procedures that may prevent, detect, or diagnose, treat, or manage diseases or conditions. We call this interventions. And participation is voluntary in the clinical trial. So researchers sometimes use clinical trials to compare existing interventions and to test new ways to deliver therapies and other care. And obviously, in a way to observe how people respond to other factors, such as dietary changes. Why are clinical trials important? So it is important for the development of new interventions is to help people to live longer and also with less morbidity, such as living with less pain and with reduced disability. And it also helps to raise the standards of treatments. When it comes to computer simulations or animal testing, it only tells us this much about a new treatment, how a new treatment might work. So if we run the clinical trials on a human body, it will help to determine whether or not the new treatments or medications is compatible or effective or safe, and whether or not a diagnostic test, for example, in the clinical trials, works properly in the right clinical setting. So there are quite a few examples of clinical trials, such as clinical trials involving new medications, new medical devices, new approaches to surgery, or it can be a diagnostic trial, such as in a way to evaluate tests to diagnose or detect a condition. Or it can be a prevention trials that is, testing new ways to prevent a disease, whether or not it is a medication, lifestyle changes, or behavior changes, or changes to diet, or even vaccinations. So usually who conducts the clinical trials? It is the researchers, might be the hospital clinicians, the university academics, pharmaceutical companies, or the combinations of all. And the clinical teams usually consist of primary investigators, secondary investigators, trial manager, or trial coordinator, or pharmacists, trial sponsor, or biostatisticians. As previously mentioned by the other two speakers in tonight's webinar, the usual process might be governed by the national ethics guidelines and codes of conduct, as what we have here in Australia, similar to other countries as well. It aims to protect clinical trial participants and also to ensure research integrity. The approval is usually granted by an ethics committee. So it's a body that reviews documents and guides researchers how to conduct the trial. So before taking part in the clinical trial, obviously patients will be screened, and patients need to be informed of the following, including objectives of the research, what is expected to do, whether or not it is involve a placebo or control group, and including risks, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, including inconveniences during and after the trial, and who to contact if there are any questions, and participant information and consent forms usually prepared and to be given a copy to patients involved, and also to safeguard confidentiality. When it comes to, there are several risks associated with participating in clinical trials, including side effects. Sometimes when it comes to experimental treatment, side effects can range. There's a spectrum of severity ranging from mild to severe or to serious. And in some cases, the side effects, experience might be a little bit different, or it can be more severe or milder than those experienced with standard treatments. Sometimes treatment may not work or may not be more effective than standard treatments. And sometimes, and it's quite common in the clinical trials, a patient might be assigned to a control group, which receive a placebo, which is, in other words, an inactive treatment that looks like as if it is the real medication. A trial might cause inconveniences during the period of a clinical trial, such as a patient might be asked to keep a diary to document different symptoms or to document any new side effects. And it might be inconvenience in the way a patient might need to be asked to attend the hospital to have more blood tests collected or even to hand in a urine sample. There might be anticipated risks due to use or testing of the intervention. And sometimes, the trials, might require more time or attention than standard treatment, translating into more visits to the hospital or more tests or more procedures or even hospital stays, just to complete the trial. All in all, before a patient signs up to a clinical trial, and before you agree to take part in the clinical trial, it is important to understand what's involved, what risks are involved, and what treatments involved, and speak to the clinical trial team. Either can be a clinical trial manager or coordinator, or even the primary investigator, who usually leave the contact details in the PICF that we just mentioned in the previous slides. With that, that concludes my talk today.
Thank you, Jason. Great presentation. And now we move to our fourth talk. Anna, I give you the screens for your which clinical trials are ongoing and will come